Today's article is Tom Cruise, Hollywood's daredevil action star. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
I am Roger, and we're going to continue talking about Tom Cruise in today's program. Last time we introduced you to him, we talked about the different kinds of stunts he has done himself in various movies. We also talked about the fact that he was born in Syracuse back in 1962, but eventually settled in New Jersey. He wanted to become a Catholic priest, but he gave up after a year and went to New York City to pursue a career in acting. And he got a big break in 1983, didn't he?
He did indeed. Of course, that was the year that Risky Business came out. That sort of comedy drama teen movie made him a very famous actor in North America especially. And then a few years later with Top Gun, when we just saw the sequel to that, which came out just a year or two ago. But the original Top Gun in 1986 made him a household name all around the world and also got a lot of young men to sign up to the U.S. Navy. Ooh. That movie was so popular. And he's had many, 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 many popular movies since then, most notably probably the Mission Impossible series. So we're going to be finding out more about what Tom Cruise is up to these days, including those Mission Impossible movies and many of the incredible stunts he continues to do even now as he becomes a 40-year veteran of the movie business. Let's check out our article.
One thing that sets Tom Cruise apart from most other actors is his willingness to perform his own stunts. In the Mission Impossible series, Cruise has done everything from climbing the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, to hanging off the side of an airplane during takeoff. He pushes himself to the limit because he's driven to make the action in his movies feel as real as possible.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 series， 指影集、电视或是广播等系列节目，也可以是一系列或是一连串的意思。例如 Have you seen any of that new television series that everyone is talking about? 你有没有看过那部大家都在讨论的新电视影集？或者 There is a funny new television series that I watch every Tuesday evening. 每个星期二晚上我会准时收看一个有趣的电视影集。
Okay, so remember we were talking about the fact that Tom Cruise does his own stunts. So one thing that sets Tom Cruise apart from most other actors is his willingness to perform his own stunts. Again, just like Chung Long, Jackie Chan, he wanted to perform his own stunts as well. And here we've got the phrase, to set something or someone apart from something else. That just means it makes you unique, it makes you different. So what sets Tom Cruise apart from other actors is the fact that he's willing to perform his own stunts. Lots of other actors don't want to do that. Why should I risk my neck? I'll just have a stunt person stand in for me, a stunt man or something. Let them take the risks. If they fall and break their neck, it's them and not me. I can still pursue my career and make millions of dollars while that person is in a wheelchair for the rest of their life.
There you go. I think a lot of the stars who come to, movies from the world, some action type activity, like I think The Rock probably does a lot of his own stunts being a professional wrestler. But you're right, a lot of other actors will think, anything that involves any kind of danger, I will get the stunt performers to do that. In many ways, that's actually preferred. I know that Hollywood producers and the insurance people, they probably have heart attacks when Tom Cruise is hanging from a skyscraper. Because imagine if a famous star like that died filming your picture. Oh my gosh. Or if they fell and got hurt. And then, of course, you'd have to delay production and that would cost millions of dollars. So in many cases, they prefer if stunt people do these dangerous actions, these dangerous stunts, because, if there's accidents, it can cause all sorts of problems, maybe even having people lose their lives. But that doesn't stop Tom Cruise. He must have some very interesting conversations with the producers and other people. It says, in the Mission Impossible series, Cruise has done everything from climbing the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, to hanging off the side of an airplane during takeoff. He's also done his own motorcycle stunts. I think he hung off a rock boulder like El Capitan or something. beginning, the beginning of the second or third movie. I mean, there's just an endless list. Oh, he broke his foot jumping from one building to another in London and then continued filming the shot. Nothing can stop this guy short of being taken away in a body bag. But this is in the Mission Impossible series we're talking here. A series is basically a connected story of films or television shows. When you have a series, you'll have a lot of the same actors performing in individual programs or shows or movies or something like that. And then it kind of gets collected over a year, or in the case of movies, over many years, into basically a long-running story that might have a lot of differences in it, a lot of different plots, even actors. But basically, this is one of those things where the fans will see the title, they'll know exactly, or they'll have a good idea of what to expect from the films. There are a certain style of films. But even if they go on for many years, you can still probably call it a series of films because a lot of the same people and a lot of the same types of stories will occur again and again. So the Mission Impossible series, it's an American series about a super secret spy network from the U.S. government, and they're always dealing with secrets and traitors and action and danger and things like that. In one of the films, yes, he was climbing the Burj Khalifa, that very, very tall, still the tallest building in the world, I believe, even though it's been up there for more than 10 years. He was hanging off the side of an airplane during takeoff. That was in also one of the Mission Impossible films. The plane was leaving the ground as it was rushing down that runway at a very high speed, and then it leaves the ground, and he is basically holding on to the side of the plane. He might have been attached with a small safety wire, but still incredibly dangerous and something I would never do. But takeoff, yes, that is the beginning of an airplane flight when the plane is actually leaving the ground and using its wings to finally get up there into the sky. The end of the flight would be landing, so takeoff is the beginning of the flight. Landing is the end of the flight at your destination.
Yes, he pushes himself to the limit because he's driven to make the action in his movies feel as real as possible. So he's dedicated to his craft. He wants to do a good job, and he pushes himself to the limit. He expects a lot out of himself, and he is driven. He has the drive or the willpower to make these action movies feel as realistic as possible. He wants people to believe that, hey, that stunt is real. It's not done with CGI. Okay, it's time for us to move on now to the second part of today's lesson. We'll find out more about Tom Cruise.
In addition to his film work, Cruise made headlines with his surprise appearance at the closing ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympics. He arrived by helicopter and performed a live stunt, rappelling down from the top of the Stade de France. His appearance was considered by many to be one of the highlights of the ceremony and helped show that Cruise is still a prominent figure in global pop culture.
第二部分看到名词 ceremony， 表示典礼或是仪式。例如 My graduation ceremony is on Saturday. 我的毕业典礼在星期六举办。或是 The award ceremony included live performances and a fireworks show. 该颁奖典礼包括现场表演和烟火秀。接着看到名词 helicopter， 它的意思是直升机。例如 Jerry is learning how to fly a helicopter. Jerry 正在学习如何开直升机。也可以说 The helicopter landed on the top of the building. 那台直升机降落在大楼的楼顶。再来介绍形容词 prominent， 表示重要的、著名的或是显著的。可以说 Sarah is a prominent figure in the field of environmental conservation. Sarah 在环保领域是一名重要的人物。
Okay, so remember, we're talking mainly about Tom Cruise's film career, or his career as a Hollywood actor. And in addition to his film work, Cruise made headlines with his surprise appearance at the closing ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympics. Okay, so I guess I'd heard about that. It was quite a spectacle, although I was not there. But he did make headlines. If you make headlines, that means you are in the news because you did something. And, of course, this happens all the time. If you're famous or if you do something spectacular, you'll make the headlines because newspapers used to have these big headlines, these title of the story basically in larger letters. So that's what a headline is. And he made headlines. He was actually famous in a news story because he actually made this surprise appearance at the closing ceremony of the Olympics in Paris just last year. So a ceremony, of course, is when something happens in order to make something else happen. Like you could have a wedding ceremony in which you get two people married together and then they're married after that. There are various kinds of ceremonies. And, of course, in the Olympics, they have the opening ceremony when you have the parade of nations coming into the stadium. And then you have the closing ceremony when everything ends.
Exactly right. A lot of people remember the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics took place mostly on the River Seine, right? The teams came down in boats and they had musicians and performers on bridges and by the side of the river. And then the closing ceremony, I think, was a bit more traditional. It took place in the big stadium there in Paris where they did a lot of the athletic events. And Tom Cruise just had to do something where his life was in danger. That's the only way we can close the Olympics, by potentially killing a movie star. So what did he do? It says he arrived by helicopter and performed a live stunt, rappelling down from the top of the Stade de France. There you go. Not to be outdone by James Bond, who I think a stuntman actually did it for Daniel Craig. James Bond at the 2012 Olympics, remember? When he parachuted along with the Queen out of a helicopter. It wasn't really them. It was stunt performers. But Tom Cruise is like, no, I'll do that on my own. So he arrived by helicopter. This, of course, is a flying vehicle that is not an airplane. So helicopters have that spinning blade or fan on top. Helicopters are unique in being able to go up and down and even stop and hang in the air. They can fly backwards and sideways, unlike airplanes. So helicopters have propellers on the top and they will hover or hang in the air, whereas, of course, airplanes have wings and they will fly in a very forward direction, unlike helicopters, which can move in 3 dimensions. So that's a pretty cool thing, to jump out of a helicopter or arrive by helicopter and then perform this live stunt, rappelling down from the top of the Stade de France. So he didn't really jump out of the helicopter. He rappelled from the helicopter. This is a special technique that's used by militaries often, or maybe firefighters or something like that, where you basically go down a rope very, very quickly, controlling your speed and your descent as you drop down from this rope. So it's basically a way to go from a higher position to a lower position, not a great distance, but to do it much faster and much more safely in many ways than using a parachute or something like that. You might have seen firefighters rappelling, or forest firefighters rappelling from helicopters into wooded areas that are inaccessible by road. And of course, also special forces soldiers fighting terrorists might rappel down to the top of a building as they break in through the top where the bad guys aren't expecting them. They're using these fast descent ropes to control their speed, but to still go from somewhere high to somewhere lower very quickly. He did this to the top of the stadium by rope, rappelling down from this helicopter, and his appearance was considered by many to be one of the highlights, one of the most memorable special moments of this closing ceremony, and it helped show that Cruise is still a prominent figure in global pop culture. I mean, when the French government calls Tom Cruise to do something dangerous at their Olympics, you know that he is a very famous or prominent figure in global pop culture. He is not French. He is not a French action movie star. He's an American, but since he's so famous, so prominent, so well known, they thought that, of course, fans from around the world will forgive them for inviting an American because it's Tom Cruise and he's doing such a special stunt live there on TV in front of this huge global audience, because he is a huge figure in global pop culture.
He certainly is. It makes me wonder why they didn't invite Philippe Petit, the famous tightrope walker.
Yeah.
Although he's probably too old now to do something like that. But still, it would have been pretty special because he is a French national. Okay, we're at the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third and final part. We'll wrap things up.
As a daredevil both on and off the screen, Tom Cruise continues to entertain audiences with his unmatched energy and commitment. His fearless stunts and intense dedication have defined his career as well as set a new standard for what it means to be an action star.
第3部分看到动词 entertain， 指娱乐，使快乐，使有兴趣，同时也可以是款待的意思。例如 This new board game is sure to entertain everyone at the party. 这款新的桌游一定能为派对上的每个人带来欢乐。再看一个例子 The magician entertained the crowd with amazing tricks. 那个魔术师用神奇的把戏娱乐群众。再来我们看到名词 commitment， 指的是长期且持久的承诺、投入或是奉献。举例来说， The company's commitment to environmental protection can be seen in its eco-friendly products. 该公司对环保的承诺可从其环境友善的产品中看出。又或者说， Tom was promoted to manager because of his hard work and commitment. Tom 因为他的辛勤工作和投入而被升迁为经理。最后看到形容词 intense， 它表示强烈的、极度的、热切的或是认真的。可以说， Edward finished his weightlifting session with an intense leg workout. Edward 以高强度的腿部训练来结束他的举重课程。最后一个例子， Joe was an intense man who was passionate about his work. Joe 是个很认真的人，对自己的工作很有热忱。
Okay, so here we're wrapping things up. Again, we're describing Tom Cruise as a daredevil, somebody who likes to do dangerous things. So as a daredevil, both on and off the screen, because he is a daredevil when he's acting and when he's not acting, Tom Cruise continues to entertain audiences with his unmatched energy and commitment. Okay, so if you entertain someone, of course, you make them feel happy because they've been working hard and they want to go see a movie or a play or something, and they just want to sit down and relax and be entertained. They just want to watch something relaxing and feel happy about life. And yes, he entertains audiences with his unmatched energy and commitment. If something's unmatched, it means nobody else does it the same way he does. He has more energy than anybody else. And of course, your commitment means you're dedicated to that thing. You're not going to give up. For example, sometimes if boy and girl have been dating for a while, eventually the girl will want a commitment. You have to propose to me. We have to get married. I want a commitment out of you. I want some sort of promise from you.
That's right. A marriage is a commitment of two people to share their lives together. And people might say, having kids or even getting a pet is a commitment. If you get a dog or a cat or, of course, children as well, you have to take care of these things for a long period. You can't just do it and then quit or change your mind later on. You are really determined to do this, and you are understanding all the responsibilities that come along with it. It says his fearless stunts and intense dedication have defined his career as well as set a new standard for what it means to be an action star. You often hear this from his co-stars. They talk about Tom Cruise as being the guy who cares the most about the movie on the set there, even with all the other professionals. He is one of the driving forces. He's there early in the morning and stays till late at night. He works on the story and the editing and stuff. He doesn't just kind of come in and do his part, collect his paycheck, and then head back to his mansion. No, he's very, very focused on making the best, most exciting movies that he can. So this is intense dedication. Something intense is very powerful. It's done at a very high level. We can talk about intense winds, very powerful winds that you might sort of experience during a typhoon. And if your friend is very intense, that means they're very kind of serious. They're not joking around very much. They're really focused on what they're doing. They might need to kind of relax a little bit if they're too intense, but it definitely means that they're not just pretending to be dedicated. They're not just pretending to do the work. They really are doing the work at a very high, very serious level. And when you have dedication, basically that just means you're going to stick it out. You're very determined. You're not going to quit. You're not going to fail. You're not going to change your mind and just kind of go, I don't care anymore. No, you're definitely focused on it. It's kind of like having a lot of commitment, having a lot of dedication means you are there to the end. You will see it through. And these have defined his character as well as set a new standard for what it means to be an action star. So yes, just showing up and doing your bit and having the stuntman do all the dangerous stuff and going back to your trailer to sit there and just be famous and rich and that kind of thing, that isn't really the Tom Cruise way, and it's influenced a lot of other people. If you're going to go in, you got to go in serious. You have to do the best you can to make the best movie available because these movies cost a lot and the fans deserve the best entertainment.
And they expect something better, even more, in the next movie. So let's find out what he comes up with in his next big blockbuster. And that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes Henny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分提到， 在不可能的任务系列中，汤姆克鲁斯完成了从攀爬世界最高建筑哈利法塔到起飞时悬挂在飞机侧面的所有动作。文中用到名词 take off， 是指起飞、升空。我们把 take 和 off拆开变成片语动词 take off， 它可以当不及物用，表达飞机起飞。像是 The plane took off half an hour ago， 飞机在半小时前起飞了。顺便补充一下 take off 做不及物用法的其他意思。第一个呢，可以用 take off 表达蓬勃发展，突然开始走红成功。那就跟中文一样，我们也会用起飞来描述事业成功嘛。take off 就可以用来表达事业啊、产品或想法等等迅速成长、大获成功。举例来说 ，At age 16, her singing career began to take off。在16岁的时候呢，她的歌唱事业开始起飞。第二个，我们可以用 take off 来表达匆匆离去、突然离开，像是 He took off without saying goodbye， 他没说再见就突然离开了。课文第3部分最后一句他写道 His fearless stunts and intense dedication have defined his career as well as set a new standard for what it means to be an action star. 他无畏的特技和强烈的投入精神，不仅定义了他的职业生涯，也为动作明星树立了全新的标准。当我们用 set a standard for somebody or something， 就是表达为什么什么建立标准。另外我们要整理的是 as well as 的不同意思及用法。好，第一种是当连接词，它可以表达还有、以及或是也。as well as 要连接词性相同的字词，就像课文里面的用法，它用到 have defined ... as well as set ... 那 defined 和 set 都是过去分词。另外要注意的是，如果用 as well as 连接主词，那么动词的单复数就必须配合 as well as 前方的名词哦。例如 The bedrooms as well as the bathroom were very clean。房间以及浴室都很干净。句子里面的 be 动词是要配合 as well as 前面的主词 the bedrooms， 所以我们是用 were 不是用 was。 好，再来第二个 as well as 还可以当介系词，表达除了之外还怎么样，后面是接名词或动名词。例如 as well as the guitar, he also plays the violin and the drums。 除了吉他，他还会拉小提琴和打鼓。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Series. I'm looking forward to watching the new episode of my favorite series tonight. Ceremony. Blake and Carrie had a beautiful wedding ceremony by the beach. Helicopter. The helicopter landed safely on the hospital's roof. Prominent. Kathy's work has made her one of the most prominent artists of her time. Entertain.We brought a board game to entertain ourselves during the trip. Commitment. Their commitment to helping the poor is truly inspiring. Intense. After weeks of intense training, Freddie was ready for the race.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, what do you think has made Tom Cruise a global film star for so long?
I believe that Tom Cruise has been so successful for so long because, well, let's just say it, he's quite handsome. You know, that has a lot to do with it. I know he's got a lot of female fans who think he's just a good-looking guy. He seems very charming, and I think the main thing, though, as we've seen in this article, is his dedication and his commitment. He is very serious about making movies. He's very serious about making the best movies possible. I know that he kind of collects ideas, like he'll just be in between movies and suddenly have an idea about horseback riding across a frozen lake while fighting a dinosaur or something, and then he'll go into his next movie and go, I want to be horseback riding on a frozen lake while fighting a dinosaur. And they'll just find a way to make it work. So I think he's always kind of thinking about the next big stunt, the next big impressive thing that he can put into his movies. And a lot of that is seen in the finished product.
Yeah, he's got that kind of clout. If he wants it done,
yeah.
The producers are probably going to try to help him achieve that. But I think Cruise's lasting career success is mainly due to the fact that, as you said, he is a handsome devil. I think I remember watching a documentary on what makes people beautiful, what makes people handsome, and they were showing Tom Cruise as an example of all the ratios with the position of his eyes and his nose and his chin. He's a prime example of somebody who is very attractive. That could be one reason for his staying power.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.